Welcome everybody, and those who are going to continue coming in. Those are the doors. I am the moderator. My name is Elizabeth Solomon. We're about to start this evening's proceedings, the violence against women and deconstructing masculinity. I think what we should, I'm told we don't necessarily, sorry, I'm fighting up with the last tag for the last event. I would like, I guess, to call first the Registrar of the University to open the proceedings, the Campus Registrar, Mr. Richard Saunders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Moderator. A very good evening to everyone. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to this very important discussion this evening on violence against women and deconstructing masculinity. I'd like to welcome our distinguished guests, members of the media, our very knowledgeable discussants who will be presenting to you, and of course our dear Professor and Dean of the Faculty of Law, who has been the person who is really responsible for us having this very important discussion this evening. I think you all are aware that over the past years, and even more recently, the issue of violence against women has become a matter which is attracting a lot of attention, not only in Trinidad, but across the globe. When you scan your daily news, it makes you aware that the abuse of women is certainly a concern, and it's becoming a matter which is attracting human rights concerns. We are indeed very concerned as an academic institution, and we're very pleased that we've been able to win some funding. As you all may know, this session is as a result of some European Union funding, which was won by the Dean of this Faculty of Law, and the project is all about growing capacity for elevating human rights in Trinidad and Tobago. Over the years, I think you all may know that UE researchers have won many EU projects funding. But what is notable in this case, it's the first time that one of our faculties of law has won a grant. So let's give a recognition and a round of applause. So Dean of Law is cutting a new track here and demonstrating to our other legal colleagues that yes, you can access international funding and get support. I think you all may also know that Professor Antoine has made an international contribution in the area of human rights. In fact, she's just retiring as president of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights in Washington. But the faculty also has a very strong involvement in human rights, and many of the faculty members are also very much have made significant contributions in this area. I think it's important to recognize that the kind of dialogue we're going to have this evening certainly will spark both personal and interpersonal reflections, which in turn could lead to some critical examination of definitions of manhood that are otherwise so easily accepted as natural and invariable. I think it's very important that we continue this kind of dialogue, and I want to certainly congratulate Professor Antoine for her good work in this area in bringing some matters which were previously deemed invisible and not getting the kind of public attention and focus and public consciousness. She's now encouraging us to interrogate these matters and have them re-examined. So I certainly hope that this evening would be a very useful discussion. I think that it's certainly one of the areas that the university has a very significant interest, and I want to welcome you to the university and thank you for coming here this afternoon, this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard Saunders. I'm going to call now the Dean of the Faculty of Law, Ms. Professor Rosemary Belle Antoine, to say some opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to welcome all of you here this evening, our campus registrar, Mr. Richard Saunders, our very esteemed guest who's representing the EU Commission delegation in Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Natasha Zurich. Special welcome, of course, they are our partners in this venture, and our other very special partner, the Institute of Gender and Development Studies, represented here by their head, Dr. Paula Morgan, who worked with us in organizing the event. Also, all of our speakers, a very engaging moderator, Mrs. Elizabeth Solomon, a very exciting panelist, all very experienced on this subject. Dr. Levi Gahman from the Institute for Gender and Development Studies, Mrs. Natalie O'Brady from the Rape Crisis Center and the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Mrs. Gaietry Pargass, attorney at law, well known in NGO activist circles, a former classmate of mine, I take some credit to Gaietry. And of course our own Mrs. Veronica Aragón, you'll hear more about her later. This seminar is one of a series of events that will take place under the umbrella of our brand new EU Faculty of Law UE Human Rights Project, entitled Growing Capacity for Human Rights in Trinidad and Tobago, and we are very, very excited at the faculty in putting forward this project. Human rights is indeed a key ingredient in the work of the faculty, and we have several persons on staff who have very significant expertise in human rights and public law in general. And I think it's no accident that this important subject of human rights should be our first offering in terms of grand projects and activities. We not only offer human rights as a core component under the LLB, but we also offer international human rights, constitutional law, both at the LLM and the LLB levels. And if you add discrimination in employment and several offshoots of rights programming in other courses, including, in fact, in our corporate courses, and the involvement of one of our faculty members, Dr. Burkhan, in URAP, which is a specialist litigation project that started at Gaietry, you can see the strength of the faculty in this area. The subject of human rights and today's topic embraces a very special goal of the faculty, which is to be relevant and dynamic in the work that it engages in. We want to ensure that we bring real value to the community and into the region. And it's very interesting that when we formulated the proposal for this human rights project, we chose to focus on three areas: gender rights, which includes gender violence, of course, the death penalty, and LGBTI rights. And today, we are holding the seminar at a time when almost every citizen has been forced to consider the issue of gender violence. And not just the women, because sometimes just the women who seem to want to talk about it. What it is, what it means, and how it should be addressed. I think perhaps that may have even affected our audience, because we've had several sort of spontaneous offerings from the university and elsewhere. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we didn't have a mayor to offer you in terms of our panelists. But nevertheless, similarly, with the ever-increasing violence, the issue of the death penalty is once again rearing its head if you're listening to the talk shows. And the third topic in our project, which is LGBTI rights, I think, is never far from the front burner. I believe personally, and I'm sure many of you share that view, in keeping well. Nobel Prize winner Amartya, I cannot pronounce his word, Amartya said, what he says, that human rights must be at the heart of development. I don't think we can consider it to be something esoteric and abstract anymore, which only engages the minds of highbrow academics. So as we look around, we see more and more that the public is becoming engaged in issues that touch their lives and understanding how much of it is really centered around human rights. Whether it is child abuse that we're talking about, whether it is citizen insecurity, whether it is prisoners' rights, something which is close to Veronica's heart, and of course today's topic, gender violence. So we are very committed to promoting human rights, so much so that we've started a new international human rights clinic. You'll be hearing more about that in the future, very ambitious, but we feel necessary goal. And we were delighted when the EU, identifying a real need, was proactive enough to put forth an open bid for an action on human rights in Trinidad and Tobago. For us, it was only natural that we should bid, and we were very elated that we were successful, since we with the assistance and the value that is given by the EU, our own vision is enabled. So we feel very honored to be able to work with the EU, an institution I think that has really stood for the values of rights and justice. It is committed not only to talking about it, but putting its money where its mouth is. So it has given us this very generous funding, which enables us to do our work, and there's no doubt a project such like this, which is going on for 2 years incidentally, which has several kinds of activities, including some new avenues that faculties of law don't often tread, such as creating films, which we'll do with our sister faculty, the Faculty of Arts, which will envisage training, research, publication, litigation inputs and the like. This could not have been possible without the generous and supportive input of the EU. An important part of this work, of course, also is the opportunity that we have to work with other dynamic partners, such as the Institute of Gender and Development Studies. And I want to say today something that sometimes we forget, that there's no doubt that this institute, on all 3 of its campuses, has led the way in understanding and promoting gender equality in the region. That work has not been fly-by-night, as some might wish to suggest recently, but sustained efforts over decades. And we're very, very honored to be able to work with the Institute, and we do look forward to working with them in future collaborations. The project will enable us to do something else, which is to reach out to the public in genuine public education and public dialogue, something I think which is really needed in this region, and importantly to work with civil society organizations, the public sector, and we hope even the Parliament, as all of us seek what I hope is in our mutual interest, to elevate the standard of human rights in Trinidad and Tobago and the region. We really feel that with our expertise and our tools, we can work with all of the stakeholders to grow the capacity for developing human rights, moving towards genuine development, since the academy, the university, certainly cannot do it alone. Before I close, let me just say a special thank you to a few people. First, Mrs. Veronica Aragón, lecturer, actually our newest lecturer in the Faculty of Law, who coordinated this event on behalf of the faculty. She will also be speaking on the panel, so you can hear her again. And she's also the person working in our International Human Rights Clinic. A special thank you also to Mrs. Antoine, our administrative assistant, who did the logistics. They worked very hard, and we are very, very grateful for the fruits of the labor. I thank all of the panelists, all of you for coming, and let us begin the dialogue. Thank you.